Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining the NCAA Eligibility webinar today. My name is Amber Viles. I'm the Assistant Director of Communications for the NCAA Eligibility Center. Today, I'm joined by Mr. Glenn Terry, the Director of Outreach and Strategic Partnerships. Before we get started, I have just a few quick housekeeping things to note. First, this webinar is being recorded and will be emailed to all registrants. So if you join this webinar and were able to get in without registering, please go register. It'll just ensure that you get a recording to this webinar and do that by the end of the day today. You should be still good to go. It'll just ensure that you get an email with the recording of this webinar. Also, as noted on our previous slide, you can hear us and hopefully you're able to see us as well, but we can't see or hear you. So please use the Q&A function for any questions. And if you'd like a response from our customer service team in the coming days, please use your email anytime you ask us a question. So I'm going to run through the agenda here, but first I wanted to say thank you. We see and appreciate the effort that you and your family are putting in. And actually right now, if you're sitting next to your coach, your high school counselor, your parent, your aunt, your uncle, your grandparent, any family member, turn around and just say thank you. Thank them for joining us as well. Thank them for taking time out of their day to help you reach your dreams. We see that you and your support system are juggling your studies and getting you to practices and COVID-19, and that definitely can't be easy, but that's exactly why we're having this webinar, so that you can get your questions answered about how to fulfill your dream of playing college sports. So to start, I'll talk about COVID-19, that FAQ, that waiver. We'll also talk about what the Eligibility Center is, and then I'll hand things over to Mr. Terry to talk about registration and alternative standards. So if you're a junior or senior on the call, pay really close attention when Mr. Terry talks about those alternative standards for Division I and II. Then we'll talk about sports participation and recruiting, and then I'll come back on, talk about some resources, and we'll answer your questions live. So by now, we hope you've all had the opportunity to hear the good news and review the content of this COVID-19 waiver. Mr. Terry is going to discuss this later in more detail, but we definitely wanted you to be prepared for the highlight of this webinar. This is the fourth release, and it's pretty exciting because it is critical for any of you enrolling in college in the 2023-24 academic year. So again, current juniors and seniors, pay really close attention when Mr. Terry discusses this in more detail later in the webinar. And first up, what is the NCAA Eligibility Center? We are a unit within the NCAA. We like to call ourselves the front door of the NCAA. And what we mean by this is your family, your coaches, your high school counselors, they recognize your hard work in the classroom and your passion for your sport, and they're going to help you get to us, and then we're going to meet you out front and help evaluate and certify you for Division I, Division II, and sometimes Division III competition. Because if you want to compete at that next level, getting certified by the NCAA Eligibility Center is not an option. So the better our collaboration is together, the more empowered you're going to be to take advantage of the opportunity of playing sports while getting your college education. So here on the screen, you're going to see a divisional breakdown that shows how the NCAA team makes a big impact on students globally. We service over 1,100 colleges, and we help over 500,000 student athletes. Keep in mind, we do this with a team of about 50 of us, so I always like to say we are a small team, but we sure are mighty. Now I'm going to hand things over to Mr. Glenn Terry, the Director of Outreach and Strategic Partnerships, and he's going to discuss registration.
Thanks so much, Amber. Really appreciate being here and really want to go ahead and help student athletes get to where they want to be on that college campus, playing the sport that they love while getting their degree. This is our registration website, eligibilitycenter.org. And as you see at the top, NCAA registration is required. If you want to play at the Division I or Division II level, you're going to need to register with the NCAA Eligibility Center and be certified to compete at the Division I or Division II level. There are 3 account types now. In September, we expanded from 2 account types. We added a third account type, account type number 2, to really talk about what students need to do to be eligible to compete. The first account type is our free profile page. This account type is absolutely free. So if you want to register to get further information about the Eligibility Center process, registration, certification, we're also going to add in some information about improving your study skills, proper nutrition, getting proper rest, things like that, things that our student athletes right now are going through as they transition from the high school environment to the collegiate environment. Like I said, there's no registration required. And if you want to transition your account from a free profile page to a certification account, you can do so at any time. The second type of account is our amateurism only certification account. This is our new account type, which is required for all international student athletes that are planning to compete at a Division III college or university. So unless you are a Division III student athlete and you are international, you do not need to register for the amateurism only account. Registration is $70. And like I said, this is absolutely only for our international students who plan to compete at the Division III level. Our final account type is the academic and amateurism certification account. This is the most popular account type this is for all student athletes, international and domestic, that want to compete at the Division I or Division II level. The domestic registration fee is $100, and that includes Canada. And the international fee is $160, and this is absolutely required if you want to go on an official visit, if you want to sign a national letter of intent, or if you want to practice or compete at the Division I or Division II level. Also, if you feel that you qualify for a fee waiver, meaning if you received the SAT or the ACT fee waiver, or if you qualify for free or reduced lunch, you may qualify for a fee waiver with the Eligibility Center. Please talk to your school counselor to learn a little bit more about if you qualify for a fee waiver with the Eligibility Center. This is your certification account dashboard. This is probably the most important screen as you are going through the registration and certification process. It allows you to check for open tasks. You can update your graduation or enrollment date if you decide that you're going to delay enrollment. If you're attending one school and you switch to another school, it allows you to edit the schools that you are attending, and just also lets us know if we have received any documents, transcripts, or information on your account. What is an NCAA ID? This is the 10-digit account number that is up in the top right-hand corner of your dashboard. You will utilize this to let coaches know that you are registered with the Eligibility Center, and they can add you to what's called the IRL, or Institution Request List. What is an Institution Request List, or an IRL? This is actually a list that our colleges use to let us know who needs to be certified from an academic and amateur perspective. So we receive over 200,000 registrations each year, but we only process probably about over 100,000 registrations. It's absolutely because of the number of roster spots that a college or university may have. So in order to be added, in order to be certified, you must be added to that college's Institution Request List, or IRL. College admission. College admission is not a part of the NCAA Eligibility Center registration process. This is a completely separate process. In order for you to be admitted to the college or university of your choice, you must apply to that college or university and be admitted. The Eligibility Center registration process is not a part of the college admissions process. Also, please make sure that you are communicating with your high school counselors, parents, guardians, and coaches to make sure that you are doing everything that you can to graduate on time and transition to the college or university of your choice. Now we're going to shift to core courses. What is a core course? Well, it is a four-year college preparatory course. It actually falls within the disciplines of math, science, English, social studies, or world language. It's taught by a qualified teacher and taught at or above the school's regular academic level. This course must be added to your school's list of core courses, and it must be given grade and credit towards your high school graduation. If it's at the math level, it must be at the Algebra 1 level or higher. For Division I, there is a core course time limitation. You actually have 4 years or 8 semesters to graduate high school. And by the time you enter your 7th semester, you must have 10 core courses completed of your 16. And of those 10, 7 must be in English, math, or science. This is an example schedule. If you are taking one math class, science class, English class, and social studies class every year for 4 years, there is no way that you can miss out on the 16 core course requirement for Division I or Division II. Most universities are requiring 2 years of foreign language for admission. So if you take those 16 courses and add 2 more years of foreign language, at that point, most of our student athletes are graduating with 18 core courses. So it's not that difficult. Here's QR code number 2, your core course list. If you want to be able to find your high school's core course list, go ahead and take your phone out and click on this QR code, and you'll be able to search for your high school and find out what courses we are able to utilize on your transcript to certify you to play Division I or Division II. Let's talk about the COVID-19 alternative standards. These standards were created to ensure that students were able to meet these standards during the COVID-19 pandemic. We realized that as 2023 grads, you guys have dealt with the COVID-19 pandemic all through high school. So we wanted to make sure that we made this environment challenging yet attainable for all student athletes involved. We wanted to make sure that we created some flexibility in the initial eligibility process. Our leadership sat and met and wanted to ensure that as we went through these academic requirements, like I said, we wanted to make sure that they were attainable for all student athletes involved. For Division I, there are 4 possible outcomes that a student athlete can achieve: early academic qualifier, academic redshirt, and non-qualifier. I'm going to walk through all 4 for you. Your early academic qualifiers, these are your academic high flyers. These are your AP students. They must complete 14 core course units in the required subject area and earn a core course GPA of 3.0 or higher. With this, they'll have the ability to practice, receive their aid, and compete in their freshman year. This is the academic subject breakdown for those courses. For the qualifier, this is our most popular certification decision. They must complete 16 core course units in 8 semesters rather than 14 core course units in 6 semesters. They must also complete 10 core courses prior to the start of their 7th semester, with 7 being in English, math, or science. Earn a core course GPA of a 2.3 in those subject areas, and submit proof of graduation to the Eligibility Center once they graduate. This is the subject area breakdown for the qualifier. For the academic red shirt, there's some give and take here, because for the 16 core courses that they complete, they will be able to practice, but they won't be able to compete. They'll be able to receive their scholarship and practice, but not compete. They must complete 16 core course units, have a core course GPA of 2.0 to 2.299, and submit proof of graduation to the Eligibility Center once they graduate. Like I said, they'll be able to practice their freshman year first term. In order to continue to practice their second term, they would have to either pass 9 semester hours or 8 quarter hours. Here's the academic subject breakdown for the academic red shirt. It is the exact same as the qualifier. This is not a decision that we want to be able to give to student athletes, but for those student athletes that do not meet the 16 core course standard or do not meet the 2.3 or the 10.7, they will be deemed a non-qualifier, and they are not eligible to receive their athletics aid, practice, or compete in their first year. They must pay their own way, and they will be judged on progress towards degree at the end of their freshman year. What's one thing that I haven't really talked about? Haven't talked about standardized test scores. So for those 2023 graduates, those students that are enrolling in the 23-24 academic year, standardized test scores are excluded from the NCAA initial eligibility certification process. What we're doing is we've actually put together a test score task force in 2021. And they made the recommendation that we do away with standardized test scores for the future. That is actually going to go to our NCAA convention in January of 2023, where our Division I membership will vote on the standardized tests and if they will continue. So keep your eyes out and keep your ears out. We'll be providing some information in January of 2023. This is our Division I core course progression. For student athletes outside of the COVID-19 environment, they were allowed to complete 1 core course after graduation to ensure that they were able to meet the core course requirement or GPA requirement for Division I. With COVID, we've actually upped that from 1 to 6, and you are allowed to complete 6 core courses from the time that you start your 7th semester or senior year all the way until you enroll full time. We're hoping that this will allow students impacted by school closures and the COVID-19 pandemic environment to complete additional coursework to meet their initial eligibility requirements and get their scholarship and be able to practice and compete. Now I'm going to shift to Division II. For Division II, there are 3 possible outcomes for student athletes: early academic qualifier, qualifier, and a partial qualifier. Early academic qualifiers, again, these are your academic high flyers. They must complete 14 core course units. And rather than having a 3.0 for Division I, they must earn a 2.5 core course GPA in the required subject areas. For that, and with that, they will be able to receive their athletics aid. They'll be able to practice and compete at the Division II level. This is the 14 course subject area breakdown for the Division II early academic qualifier. The Division II qualifier must also complete 16 core course units, not the same as Division I, but a little different. And rather than having a 2.3 GPA, they must earn a 2.2 core GPA in the required subject areas while also submitting their proof of graduation to the Eligibility Center. These student athletes will be able to get their athletics aid, practice, and compete at the Division II level once they graduate. This is the subject area breakdown for the Division II qualifier. All other student athletes that do not meet the qualifier standard will be deemed a partial qualifier. So if you fall below the 2.2 core GPA or below the 16 core course standard, you will be deemed a partial qualifier, which will entitle you to athletics aid your freshman year and the ability to practice. You will not be able to compete your freshman year in college. Standardized test scores are also excluded from the initial eligibility process, so those students will not need to submit a standardized test score. However, you may need them for college admissions and/or any academic or need-based scholarship programs. Please go ahead and check with your college to find out what's needed for admissions. Before I move on to this slide, please go ahead and submit your questions in the Q&A feature. We want to make sure that we answer any and all questions that you may have. Also, these are QR codes for the Division I and Division II academic requirements for all other classes. So for juniors, sophomores, and freshmen, these are the academic requirements that you'll be required to meet. We will, as I told you before, the SAT and the ACT will be voted on at the January 2023 NCAA convention. So at that point, we will be able to let you guys know what you need to do to be able to meet the academic requirements moving forward. For Division III, each Division III college or university determines its own eligibility for academic requirements and admissions. So if you are a domestic student athlete and you apply to a Division III college or university, once you're admitted, you are eligible to practice and compete at the Division III level. For international student athletes who plan to compete at the Division III school, they must complete an amateurism only certification account. We will then certify their amateurism to make sure that they are not professional in nature. Now I'm going to move to distance or e-learning courses taken during the COVID-19 pandemic. When the pandemic hit in March of 2020, most students went home and they completed courses through e-learning programs. So when that happened, we made the decision not to require a review of distance or e-learning programs for the spring of 2020, the 2020-2021 academic year, the 22 academic year, or this year, the 22-23 academic years in response to COVID-19. This policy applies to all students from all grade levels who complete distance or e-learning courses. So if you were a freshman, sophomore, junior, or senior completing coursework in the e-learning environment during this time, you will not be required to have your courses reviewed. You actually have until August 31st of 2023 to have those courses reviewed. So if you choose to take distance learning or e-learning courses through this academic year and or this summer, those courses must be completed prior to August 31st of 2023. Any courses completed on or after September 1st, 2023 will need to be reviewed by the NCAA Eligibility Center. We realize that all homeschool students, that all students who take online or hybrid courses are not necessarily homeschooled. Just because you took e-learning coursework during the COVID-19 pandemic, it does not make you homeschooled. Homeschooled is a completely separate entity, separate from the e-learning environment. So if you are homeschooled, please take your phone out and click this QR code to learn a little bit more about the homeschool environment during the COVID-19 pandemic and what courses can and cannot be used during the NCAA initial eligibility registration and certification process. Before I move on to sports participation, I wanted to let you know that we've placed links to our resources in the chat. So please don't hesitate to click the chat and search the resources for information to help you on your journey. Sports participation, part of the registration process is not only an academic process, but an amateurism process. So once you register with the Eligibility Center, you'll be required to list the sports you'd like to play in college and answer some questions about the sport that you're wanting to compete in. Some of the questions we'll talk about the teams that you played for and some of the events that you competed in. Please be absolutely honest about your answers, and don't forget to request final amateurism. So if you are enrolling in the fall, you would request final amateurism in April of your senior year. However, if you are enrolling in the winter or spring semester and you're graduating early, you would request final amateurism in October of your senior year. Name, image, and likeness. Three of my favorite words. We are absolutely excited that student athletes are able to benefit from their name, image, and likeness. If you have questions about name, image, and likeness, one thing that the NCAA is doing currently is we are following all state legislation. So if your state has legislation, we are following the legislation that your state has mandated. However, if your state does not have legislation on its books about name, image, and likeness, we are actually following the policies and procedures at the college that you are choosing to attend. So please visit ncaa.org/NIL for more information about NIL. Or if you want to, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, and we will make sure that we send you more information about name, image, and likeness. Students, if you have any questions about your account, you can contact our Eligibility Center. We have some of the smartest people in the business ready to serve you. 877-262-1492, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. You can contact them and get all of your questions answered. I'm going to shift to recruiting really quickly. Recruiting calendars. The guide for the college-bound student athlete is probably the most comprehensive piece of information that we have. It contains everything from the registration and certification process to recruiting, and we'll provide you information not only about recruiting, but when you can contact a coach and when a coach can contact you. It'll talk to you about what can happen in your freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior year in the recruiting process. Recruiting calendars. There are 3 separate periods that happen during the recruiting process. There are contact periods, quiet periods, and dead periods. Contact periods, really clear. It's when a coach can contact you. Quiet and dead periods are somewhat similar. The only difference between a quiet period and a dead period, there is no off-campus recruiting that can take place. A coach cannot come to your high school, cannot come to your home during a quiet or dead period. The only difference is during a quiet period, you can actually be on the college campus. Unofficial versus official visits. Unofficial visit, I'll put this very plain and very clear. An unofficial visit is a visit that you actually pay for. You can take as many unofficial visits as you'd like. You can go to a college more than once on an unofficial visit. At that point, they can provide up to 3 tickets to a home Division I contest or 5 tickets to a home Division II contest. but you cannot talk with a coach during an unofficial visit during your sports stead period. Official visit. This is a visit that the college or university pays for. They will pay for your transportation to and from the college, provide lodging and meals, and include reasonable entertainment expenses. They'll pay for you to go to a movie, a party on campus, go-kart riding, anything like that. That includes reasonable entertainment expenses. They can also include up to 2 family members to a Division I basketball and or FBS football game. However, you cannot take an official visit during your sports stead period. The National Letter of Intent. This is the contract that you sign to agree to attend a Division I or II school for 1 academic year. In exchange, the school will provide you with scholarship money. National letters of intent are voluntary, and it ends the recruiting process, meaning that once you sign a national letter of intent, all schools, all other colleges must cease the recruiting process. As I said, this is a contract, so I will say this. If you signed a national letter of intent and your coach decides to depart your school, you are still bound to the college. You did not sign with the coach, you signed with the school. So you are still bound to attend the college for 1 academic year. Only about 2% of high school athletes are awarded scholarships to attend college. So, there are, the talent level and the competition level is extremely high. You are not just competing with folks in your school, in your city, or in your state. You are competing with student athletes across the country and in some cases around the world for college scholarships. So please continue to work hard. And I will say this, academic achievement creates opportunities. It's not just about what you do on the field of play. It's definitely about what you do in the classroom. Some of the questions that you may want to ask when you go on your official visit, talking about the cost of attendance. Is financial aid available? What type of scholarship I may receive? You definitely want to know what housing is like. Make sure that you are asking coaches where you are in the recruiting process and if your offer is committable. Some offers that they provide are not committable because they are waiting for the commitment of a person that is ahead of you on the recruiting board. So please make sure that you are doing everything that you can to get as much clarity as you can in the recruiting process. We want to make sure that you find the absolute best college or university for you. Proactive student actions. Some of the things that you really want to make sure that you're doing is sharing your NCAA ID with coaches and schools that are recruiting you. Make sure that you are applying to colleges that you want to attend to make sure that you are accepted. Request your final amateurism. If you're in your senior year, April 1st, if you are enrolling in the fall, October 1st, if you are graduating early and enrolling in the winter spring. And once you graduate from high school, please ask your high school counselors to submit your final high school transcript with proof of graduation. Also know that there are special considerations for student athletes with education impacting disabilities. I'd like to thank you very much for taking the time to listen. And now what I'll do is I'll turn it back over to Amber to talk about resources. Amber, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Terry. And I know that we have gone over a lot of information in a short amount of time. Just know, like we mentioned at the top, if you registered for this webinar, a recording will be sent to you. If you haven't yet registered, register by the end of today. That'll just ensure that you're getting that recording in your inbox. Also, a PDF to this PowerPoint will be included, so you can click through all these links. But I'm going to hit on some resources. So first up is going to be reviewing the COVID-19 FAQ. This is a really important resource for all of our senior student athletes. It's going to go over everything that Mr. Terry talked about at the beginning of the webinar. And then next is going to be the most comprehensive resource we have, as Glenn mentioned, the Guide for the College-Bound Student Athlete. This resource is really helpful if you and your family have questions. I I know I use it all the time. I run our social media channels here, so our Facebook, our Instagram, and our Twitter. And anytime that I have a question being asked through any social media platform, most of the time I can find the answer in the guide for the college-bound student athlete. So please give this a good review. But if you're looking for something a little faster, a little smaller and shorter than the guide, I do recommend that initial eligibility flyer. It is a quick print, just front page, back page, that will give you the basics of what you need to know. And also, I forgot to mention when I talked about it, but that guide for the college-bound student athlete, there is a link in the chat. There's also this QR. So just like we did throughout the whole presentation, you're going to see some QRs pop up after this slide. Have your phone out. Just go ahead, hold your camera over that, scan it, click it on your phone, and it'll pop up the web page. This is a really good resource for you and your family to review. Next, we're going to take a few questions live. So if you have a question, please ask it in the Q&A function. Those are sent to us directly, and we have a staff on hand right now that are answering your questions live. And again, if you want your question answered in the coming days, let's say it's really specific or we just don't have enough time to get to everybody's questions today, just include your email in the question that you're asking. This will ensure that our customer service team can respond to you after this recording is done today. And with that, let's get started with our first question here. So Glenn, I'm going to send this question your way. It is, can you review the registration fees for certification accounts?
Absolutely. Great question. For our amateurism only, for those international students, it is $70. For the academic and amateurism certification account, for domestic student athletes, it is $100. That includes Canada. And for those international students, it is $160.
Thank you. And just know that in November of 2023, we did hold an international specific webinar. So I'll ask my team to link that webinar in the chat as well. So if you are an international student joining us today, just know we've already held a webinar specific for you with the same information, but just international specific. So give that a watch. Next question here is, how do I get on a school's IRL?
Another great question, Amber. What you do on the field of play is going to speak volumes about getting contact from coaches, but it's not just about the field of play. You've got to mirror what you do in the field of play with what you do in the classroom. So if you're playing great on the field of play, you've got to do the exact same thing in the classroom. When college coaches come to your school, the first thing that they're going to want to do is they're going to want to see your transcript to see if you're admissible to their college or university.
Thank you. And next question here is, when do I need a certification account?
That's a great question. In order to, what I'd like to say is I'd like to see everybody register with a profile account. Create the free profile account, and as you create the free profile account, once college coaches start contacting you, at that point you can transition your account to the paid account. I don't want to see parents paying $100 for a registration account when they're not positive that their student wants to compete or will compete at the Division I or Division II level. So if you want to register, go ahead and register for the free profile account. It doesn't take anything, takes about 15 minutes. And at that point, once college coaches start calling, you can actually transition your free profile account to an academic or amateurism certification account.
Wonderful, thank you. And also, if you missed the QR for that guide for the college-bound student athlete, it is up on your screen, so feel free to scan that with your phone and click that link. Next question here, when do my high school grades start to count towards my NCAA Eligibility Center certification?
They start to count in ninth grade. So, the minute that you start ninth grade, your transcript begins. So everything on your transcript from 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade will be used not only in the admissions process in college, but will be used at the Eligibility Center certification process.
Thank you. We have quite a few more questions coming in, so we're going to try to get through as many as we can. Next one says, you mentioned my NCAA ID. Where do I find that?
You can actually find that once you sign into your account on the dashboard. You would click in the top right-hand corner. It is a blue number, a blue 10-digit number. That would be your NCAA ID.
Thank you. And this next question, this is one that I get on social media often. I'm taking an English course at my local community college. Will this be used in my certification?
Amber, you just hit me with the great questions. Yes, it can be used if it's taken at the community college at the 100 level or higher. Also, if it's given grade and credit on your high school transcript, we'll be able to utilize that course.
Thank you again. And you'll see that a new QR code has popped up. This is for that COVID-19 automatic waiver FAQ. So again, if you have your phone out, especially if you're a senior or if your child is a senior, scan this QR code. It'll walk you through all of that flexibility that the NCAA was able to provide. Next question here is, do I need a certification account to go on an official visit?
Yes, you must be registered with the certification account to go on an official visit. Most official visits are required. The college will require a transcript as well to go on an official visit, but you must be registered with a certification account to go on an official visit.
Thank you. Moving down my row here. Next question that we've been asked is, will the EC use courses taken in the 8th grade?
Yes, we will utilize courses taken in the 8th grade. If you are taking 9th grade courses in the 8th grade, like Algebra 1 or Spanish, if they are given grade and credit on your high school transcript, we will utilize those courses on your certification.
Next question we're getting in, I'm going to play Division III. Do I need to register with the Eligibility Center?
This one is actually a yes and no. If you are an international student athlete, yes, and you need to register with the Eligibility Center and create an amateurism only account. If you are a domestic student athlete, no, you do not need to register, but it would not hurt to have a profile account. So I would suggest that you go on ahead and register with the profile account if you're planning on participating at a Division III college or university.
Thank you. And I see a couple questions here, so I'm going to combine a few. This is SAT and ACT related. So first off, are the SAT and ACT required for all students this year? And then second, could you hit on how students can submit their SAT and ACT scores to the EC?
That's a great question. Basically, the SAT and the ACT are not required for students graduating in the class of 2023 and enrolling in the 23-24 academic year. As far as regarding those student athletes in the class of 24 and beyond, we will vote at the NCAA convention in January of 2023 to determine if standardized test scores need to be used in the initial eligibility process. As far as submitting scores, you can actually ask the SAT or the College Board to submit your scores, the ACT or the College Board to submit your scores to the Eligibility Center. And the code is 9999. Your scores will be submitted to the Eligibility Center for certification.
Thank you. And you'll see this slide has 3 QR codes. It's going to take you to our social media channels. So a little biased because I run the channels. I'll be the person answering all the questions that you ask on our Twitter, our Instagram, and our Facebook. But give us a follow on each of these to stay up to date on everything current. It's really timely stuff and great graphics just to break down the process of going through the Eligibility Center. Next question here for Mr. Terry. How does college athletes taking an extra year of eligibility impact the number of spots on the roster for upcoming college freshmen?
Taking an extra year can either open and or close some doors. However, one thing I will say is the NCAA portal has now opened the realm of recruiting for some student athletes who have gone to college and now want to switch and go to another school. So one thing I will always say is make sure that you're doing the job on the field and in the classroom. And not only that, make sure that you are creating relationships with coaches and letting them know that you are interested in their college or university to be able to afford an opportunity.
Wonderful. And this one is one that I'm emailed often. How can I check my Eligibility Center status?
The easiest way that you can check your NCAA Eligibility Center status is logging on to your account at eligibilitycenter.org. Or if you want to and you just don't want to check it, you can actually contact our customer service department at 877-262-1492. That's 877-262-1492, Monday through Friday between the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. And they'll be able to answer where you are in the process.
Thank you. And don't worry if you didn't get that number, we will have another slide with it on there. So next, we're going to try to hit a few more questions here. We're going to try to answer as many as we can. Can I upload my child's transcript to their Eligibility Center account?
We do allow it, but in order to make things as clear as possible, we ask that your high school upload the transcript to the Eligibility Center account. So if you know, have your school counselor, just ask your school counselor to upload their official transcript to the Eligibility Center account via the high school portal.
Next question is going to be about fee waivers. So who can get a fee waiver, and then how do I get approved for one?
That is a great question. In order to get a fee waiver, there is a specific criteria. We actually have a link it may end up in the chat of how you can qualify for a fee waiver. If you qualify for an SAT or an ACT fee waiver, or if you meet certain qualifications like free or reduced lunch, you would qualify for a fee waiver with the Eligibility Center. You'd need to just talk to your high school counselor and let them know that you've registered with the Eligibility Center and you qualify for a fee waiver, and if they can attest to that fee waiver for you.
Yeah, and with this, just know that as of this year, homeschool students, international students, you're included in that fee waiver. So again, like Mr. Terry said, it's going to be linked in the chat, but check it out, see if you're eligible, and work with your high school counselor. This next question I can take, it is, will this presentation be recorded and provided after we're done today? And can you send me this presentation? We've seen this a few times in the chat today. So just know this presentation is being recorded and will be sent to everyone who registered. So again, register by the end of today. Just make sure that you're going to be sent the recording and a PDF to this presentation after we're done with today's webinar. Next question, we'll do 2 more just to make sure that we're staying cautious of everybody's time here. So next question is, I changed high schools. Do you only need a transcript from my current high school, question mark?
We need a we need a transcript from every high school that you've attended. So if you've gone to 3 different high schools, we would require a transcript from all 3 high schools. We want to make sure that we are able to use each course that was taken at each high school to be certified. So we want to get an official high school transcript from each high school that you've attended.
Thank you. And last question that we'll go over, it's kind of specific, but I think it's really important. This question says, I go to an early college high school where I'll get my high school diploma and associate's degree. Will I still have 4 years of eligibility when I enroll in college?
Absolutely. We love an early college, high school student athlete. The fact that you are graduating with your high school diploma and also getting an associate's degree is absolutely excellent. You will not lose any eligibility once you enroll in full-time at the college or university of your choice. You will also have 4 years of eligibility to utilize and enjoy your student athlete experience.
Thank you, Mr. Terry. And one of the last QR codes we have up here today is how did we do? Let us know. Take a quick survey. So again, if you have your phone out, just go ahead and scan this QR code. Last time I checked, I think this was like 4 or 5 questions. Just let us know how we did and how we can improve these webinars for student athletes moving forward. And again, I see that we have quite a few questions left, so we're going to make sure to log these and get these over to our customer service team. If you do have questions, still chat them to us. Just include your email so that the customer service team can reach out to you directly with an answer to your question. Just know your questions are valid. We are here to help you. We want to help you. We just are short on time today here and are trying to get through this. So if you can, just make sure to ask us anything you need or reach out to us on our with our customer service team. Here's our number that Mr. Terry talked about earlier. And if you need to register for a free profile page account, here's a QR code for that. Again, thank you for joining us today. As we mentioned before, we will email a link to everyone who registered to today's webinar in the coming days. So if you have any teammates or parents or coaches that you think would benefit from hearing this, just forward it on to them. This recording stays live forever, and it'll be a really great resource for them. Again, my name is Amber Viles, and on behalf of myself and Mr. Glenn Terry, if you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're here to support you and your family as things change and questions arise. Thank you all and be safe.